Hello, everyone. My name is Nkenge Browner. I am the grassroots director at Mothering Justice, and we are back with another community conversation where we highlight orgs and folks in the community who are doing the work that we so desperately need and connecting all of the institutions to make sure that needs are being met in our community for our community members. Tonight, we are meeting with Aura Williams of Grandparents Parenting Again and Kinship Support. Aura is originally from Louisville, Kentucky. She was an only child adopted by wonderful parents, educated in the Jefferson County school system. She continued her studies at Eastern Kentucky University, later married and moved to Detroit. She resumed her education and graduated from Wayne County Community College and Oakland County Community College. She has a certification from University of Maine Center on Aging and Grandparents Leadership. She is an active member of Fellowship Chapter. She is the founder and director of Grandparents Parenting Again and Kinship Care Support. One second. She serves on the board of the James Wadsworth Community Center as well as other civic and community orgs. She volunteers her time to these organizations with the goal of bringing information and resources to enhance the community's mission and vision. She began Grandparents Parenting Again and Kinship Support Care Support Group in 2009. It started from Mothers of Inmates Support Team program where she saw a gap in support for grandparents assuming the responsibility of incarcerated parents. Her best friends call her the consummate social worker, and she humbly accepts the title because helping is in her blood. During her downtime, she frequently shops at estate, garage, resale, and consignment shops, and she equally enjoys getting resources for people in the community. She is the mother of two sons, one of whom is deceased. She is also the grandmother of six grandchildren and great grandmother of four, ranging from 3 to 25. She has received many awards and assumed many roles, but her most important role is being a child of God who gives her the strength to do all things through Him. Hello, Miss Earl Williams. How are you tonight?
I am great. Thank you so much, Nkenge, for this invite. I love talking about grandparents parenting again and kinship care. So I appreciate you highlighting this group.
Well, I've heard so much about you, your work, this, and so many other things. Actually, I've heard your name in a lot of different social justice circles, and in another circle is where you came up, and I wanted to know. We wanted to know more about this. So, at Mother and Justice, we work with mamas, but we work with people who are parenting, and we know in our community that's not always mama. Sometimes it's aunties, sometimes it's grandma. It is whoever is assuming responsibility for that child. But often it's a collective responsibility. So I've known many grandparents who have taken on a lot of raising of their children's children. My grandmama, for instance, right? She definitely was parenting me and my brother for a long time. And I wanted to ask you, so I know you just came out of the group called Moist, Mothers of Incarcerated.
Mothers of Inmates Support Team.
So can you tell us a little bit about that group to start off?
I will. That group was started by Stella Calloway, who has passed on now. And I joined the group. And it was funny how I ended up joining the group. Stella Calloway was a Primerica insurance lady, and she was going to sell me some insurance, and I said for my son, and I said, okay. She said, okay, just have him sign these papers. Well, at that time, my son was incarcerated. I said, well, I can't do that. And of course, you're always embarrassed. You don't want to tell anybody that your child is incarcerated or your child's not there. And she said, oh, you can? And she said, well, can is there something I can help you with? And I said, I took a deep breath. I said, well, my son's incarcerated. She said, oh, that's all it was. And I said, yeah. She said, oh, that's how this group got started. And I said, oh, she said, I got a group for you, girl. You just come on and join Mothers of Inmate Support Team. We are all in this together. We have our children are incarcerated now or have been incarcerated. And I'm saying, oh my goodness. And you know how you think you're the only one. You know there are others, but everybody keeps that a hush hush. So I started with the meetings, and then the next thing you know, Stella had handed the reins over to me. That's how I ended up being the president of Mothers of Inmate Support Team. And that organization was getting resources and referrals and making sure that the mothers knew that they weren't alone, that there are other mothers out there that are going through the same thing. And so as we met more and more, we got new members because people were finding out about that there is somebody they can talk to that's not going to judge them because their child made a mistake in life. So that's how I ended up with Moist. And as I was going with Moist, they were taking care of these grandchildren and the great grandchildren and nieces and nephews and all kinds of people. And so I said, there's got to be something that, some way to help these grandparents. And at that time, I think it was Shalonda Buckman and Shannon Perry were at DPN, and I was doing some independent work with them. And I told them about it, and they were interested in helping me to start the group. And so they did help me to start the group. And it's been going ever since. I'm no longer with DPN. I'm doing it independently now. And we've been doing it since about 2009, 10, somewhere around in there. And Moist has disbanded because I took on this group and there was nobody to continue on with Mothers of Inmate Support Team. And so that's where we are at this point.
Okay, that is so wonderful because I know so many families, small and little, where incarceration is just like this secret that we don't talk about, and it carries a lot of shame. We make up a lot of stories. I have a young relative who still thinks her daddy is away at school, and and I think that shame keeps us from accessing resources, and it leads
Mhm.
to the isolation, right? And the minute you whisper it to another woman and she's able to say, girl, that's nothing. Let me just
Yeah,
talk to people. Don't worry about it. That's such a beautiful story of community relatability and access to services. So,
it's
one,
like a big load lifts off you also because you keep this secret to yourself because people are judgmental. Let's be for real. And it's always, you always feel as a parent, what didn't I do? What did I do? What made my child go this route? He knew better. I raised him better. And so once you remove that guilt from yourself, and that was one of the things that I worked with Moist, and I would tell the grandparents and the members of Moist, when you come in here, take your guilt hat off before you come in, because there's no guilt in this room. Our children were adults, the majority of them, that made adult decisions, and they have to suffer adult consequences. Even though we work and we pay for it also, they're the ones, because I tell anybody, if you have a loved one incarcerated, you do the time with them also.
yes,
You honestly do.
absolutely. Yes, definitely. Okay. Oof. All right. I wish the group was still up, but we understand things happen. And I feel like, there might be some space to get you going if I could bring you some mamas who got the energy capacity for it. Maybe we can learn and then take it on. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful service. So you were doing more during that time. Inevitably, you met grandparents who were taking care of the children of their children. Um, so at what point did you realize, like, okay, this is happening enough that we need to start dedicating some real time and effort to resources here?
Uh, I would say probably, I think it really got the sunk its teeth in probably in about 2011 for actually the grandparents that start moving out, because we started a support group. DPSC, well, it was DPS then, but DPSCD had resource rooms, and a lot of parents were coming into those resource rooms. So I started at Central High School
Mm.
way back then, and we started with I think it was maybe about five grandparents that came in. We sent out messages and we sent out flyers, and about five people showed up. Central also at that time was had pregnant and teen moms there. So we
Mhm.
also worked it. It was a twofold. We were grandparents parenting again, but we also were mentoring these young ladies that were teen moms. And so once a month we met twice a month, and once a month we would have a potluck meal for them, and they'd come in and we would just have a good old grandma and granddaughter talk, because a lot of times they didn't feel that they could talk to their parent or their mom at home, or mom was working and trying to keep the family together. And so this was free time for them. Plus, it was a good home cooked meal, so they enjoyed that. So we started at Central High School. I then went to Cody High School, because the word started getting around, and each resource room wanted a grandparent support group at their school. So
Yeah.
I ended up going to Cody. At one point, I was going out like 3 to 4 days a week, because I would have different support groups at different schools. We went to Ludington. I was at Ludington School, Cody, Central. We ended up, for the last 4 years before COVID, we were at Drew Transitional Center on Wyoming and Chicago. And we stayed there for about 4 years almost until COVID came. And when COVID came, we did some virtual, but a lot of my grandparents were not into technology. And so it's kind of hard to do the virtual best we could. And when we got ready to start back, I went to my church home, Fellowship Chapel, under Reverend Wendell Anthony, and talked to the powers that be to see if we could have a program there. And that's where we've been ever since we started back in 2022. We've been back at Fellowship Chapel, and we meet there twice a month, on the second and fourth Thursday of each month, and we have a virtual meeting on the second Thursday in the evening for those grandparents that are still working. Because there are a lot of them that are still working, that have to keep working. And then some of the grandparents are young. So they got a
Mhm.
long time before they retire.
Okay.
So
Wonderful. It's a wonderful journey. So, what would you say is the biggest support that the group offers to grandparents who are parenting?
I would say resources and fellowship.
Mhm.
And the reason I say fellowship is because so many of these grandparents, as I've always said, when you retire or when you become a grandmother, you're all excited about being a grandma, because, okay, I can go get my grandbaby and we can do things together. And then you take your grandbaby back home to mom and dad, or you might have them for a weekend. Well, with grandparents parenting again and kinship care, and the reason it's called in kinship care, because kinship care encompasses all of those that are not grandchildren with their grandparents. It could be nieces, nephews, it could be cousins, where people are taking care of children that are not their own. Oh, that are not their own. And so that's where the kinship care part comes in. But these grandparents, a lot of times their friends don't understand that why they're taking on this responsibility when you had your life free. But they say, I don't know why you take on that responsibility. Those kids need to take care of their own kids. But it doesn't work that way all the time. Sometimes the kids cannot take care of their own kids. Yeah, we would love for our children to be able to, but all of them are not able to. So it's good that the grandparents are there to step in. And I
Mhm.
say, we don't get to really be grandparents. We become parent, disciplinarian, doctor, nurse, teacher, all of that. We're all of that rolled in one. So that grandparent title kind of moves on. And your friends, after a while, they don't call you as much. They don't come by to see you as much, because they can still go wherever they want to go when they want to go. Whereas they used to could call you and you could say, okay, what time do you want me to be ready? But you can't do that now because you have to make arrangements. And so for the grandparents, the fellowship, just coming together uh, with others that are like-minded, that understand what you're going through, that makes all the difference in the world. And if you were to talk to some of the members, they would tell you that they thought for so long that they were the only ones doing this, and they didn't know where they could go for any resources. They didn't know where to go for just companionship. So they found that, and faithfully they come on the second and fourth Thursday of each month because they look forward to that.
What does those second and fourth Thursdays look like? Where are they? What happens? How can folks
Okay.
want to come?
That is our meeting day. And what we do is usually I'll have resources. We have workshops that are scheduled at that time sometimes because I want them to always be educated. I want them to know where they can get the help that they need. So I'm always scouring. People tease me because they may get an email from me at 2 o'clock in the morning because I found something and I shoot it out to them. So they get resources. And sometimes we just have a fun day. Like on the 11th, we will be celebrating Mother's Day. We did part of it today. We're going to do part of it next week. Next on the 11th. And what we'll do is it'll be a fun day. We'll play games. I have lots of prizes, and we just have fun, and we have food, and we have fellowship, and we just have fun on that day. An ordinary meeting day it consists of giving out resources, getting information from the members that are there. What are the needs that they have? And so that if there's somebody in the group that has experienced that, they can share. It's a give and take kind of situation. Sometimes we have speakers. We've had special speakers come in to talk about. We've had the Robert Defoe organ transplant speaker come in and talk about African Americans donating their organs because it's not something that we do. So I wanted someone to come in and talk about that so that they'd have the real truth about it. Know the real, not what you heard from somebody that, they're not going to, you're going to be on the bottom of the list and all of this crazy stuff. I wanted them to talk to someone that had gone through it. One of our members, in fact, has received both a heart and a lung transplant. So she was able to talk about her experience. Another young lady that works here in the community, her son donated. He was able to save 5 lives. I think it was 5 or 7 lives with his donation. So I want them to be educated about things like that. Safety issues. We have the fire department come in and talk about how can they get carbon monoxide, fire, what they call smoke detectors, things like that. Where can they get these things? How can they get them put up even? And Lieutenant Taylor was excellent. He told them if they need for somebody to come and put them up, he would come and install them for them because a lot of times they don't have the people to do, they have to pay for everything. So those are the kind of things we do on a regular meeting day. Between 12, we meet from 12 to 2. We do have light refreshments. Sometimes they're hearty refreshments, and that's good too. And we just share. It's a sharing meeting. And on Thursday is our virtual meeting, and we just meet virtually for those that have to work during the day.
Okay. What need so grandparents, they come in, their parents, and again, they're getting their grandkids at all different ages. I'm sure some folks are getting little babies, some folks are getting teenagers, or even in the kinship support child may come to you at any age. It's not like going to the hospital, coming home with this fresh new baby that don't have no life experiences, no nothing going on, smelling all good. You might be getting a teenager who maybe saw some things that happened before parent was incarcerated, or maybe lived a certain way that grandma's house is a little bit different from. So adjusting to some new rules and things like that. In those situations, what what kind of support can the rest of the community be offering to these kind of essentially new parent, reparent, reparent
Right.
grandparents or other folks?
What I find,
What could we be doing to happen when this is happening?
I just gave out some information today. One of the biggest issues that I find with the grandparent is technology. Uh,
Mm.
Learning to do technology so that they can join in meetings, that they can talk to schools, because everything is a portal now, or getting their medical records, all of that. I had a grandmother call me earlier today, and she was hysterical. She said, "I need to get my medical records and my granddaughter's medical records, and the doctor's office said it would be $100 for each of us. I don't have $200 to pay for that. So what do you do? So what I did is gave her some advice to call the place that needed the medical records, ask them to call her doctor's office and request them. So we need things like that, like you know, pro bono legal services is one thing that we need also, because a lot of times they have legal issues, and sometimes when they go to Elder Law or Lakeshore Legal or some of these other places, what happens is there's a waiting list. And a lot of
Mhm.
times, some of them cannot afford to wait for some of the things that they're needing legal help for. So, one of the things that I'd love to see is that if we had an attorney that we could call, and it wouldn't be an excessive amount, but just somebody we could call when we kind of got in a little pinch or something. So that's one of the things that I say that we need. Technology training. And when I say technology training, it has to be um, with technicians that are patient
Yeah.
more than anything, that are patient.
Mhm.
And we don't want you to do it for us. We want you to show us how to do it and walk us through and work with us on it. Even when we ask the grandkids to do it, that we want them to help us. Well, they get frustrated. Well, grandma, let me just, no, we don't want you to do it for, we'll never learn. So, technology, um, technicians that will be patient with us and maybe do one on one with us to show us how to do things and how to get on Zoom calls and how to connect the speaker so that they can hear things like that. So, those are two of the biggest things. We get good donations of clothes. We collaborate with a number of organizations. Um, that help us also. And some of those organizations insist of um, Birmingham Methodist Church is one of them, Brightmore Alliance, Maxine Marjorie Fisher, they are very supportive of us. Community Connections, James Wadsworth, um, Karen Dupree, Christie's Legacy. And so they're able to get Christmas gifts, they're able to get Easter baskets. We have a new collaboration with For Goodness Cakes so that the grandchildren get cakes for their birthdays, where so that grandma doesn't have to spend that money, or sometimes she doesn't have it. If she's got a bunch of kids, she may not have it for to get each individual child a cake. So For Goodness Cakes has come to the rescue there. So we have collaborations, and that helps a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of community collaborations. Who's managing your community collaborations? Who's helping you manage all of this programming? Okay.
Um, we're working on some things to put some more work on some of the grandparents. Some of the grandparents can do some of the computer work. Uh,
Hmm.
so I'm kind of easing some things off of my plate,
Yes.
uh, because I teach them and they say, but you don't practice it. I teach them self care, that they
Mhm.
must do self care so that they are able to take care of these grandchildren. And so, with that being said, I'm planning something for them coming up in June so that they will have a day of self care. And I promise them I will do some self care too. But
Yes.
basically,
That was my next question. Um, my grandmother, she raised her own children. Then she did a lot of hands-on grandchildren raising, and then we started having babies. And she was like, "That's it. You don't even bring the baby over here." Like she was done. And my grandmother went on, I think it was 45-day cruise. She just left us, and we figured it out.
I love it.
But she said two generations that's enough. I got the last, and which we owed her that at that point.
I love
But
it.
when I hear you doing this work, and obviously I do community work also, maintaining that many connections is a lot of work. It took a lot of work to build those connections and to get to a point where you have this relationship. And I hear you saying that, for the most part, you are managing a great deal of it.
Thank goodness it doesn't come all at one time.
Yeah, but even managing relationships, right? Not just
Oh, yeah, sure, keep those going. Yeah.
So what are your plans for? I hear that so you're raising kids again, and you're managing org again, and now you're planning for your peer self-care. But what does self-care for Miss Aura look like?
I'm going to Niagara Falls next month.
Okay.
I'm going to take a trip. So I'm looking forward to that. If I could turn my mind off, I would be fantastic. Because what I find myself doing, and I'm sure you do also, you're always thinking, what can I do? How can I make it better for them? How can I make it easier for them? How can I get this over here to move over here? Your mind just continually goes. And that's where I have to sometimes just actually sit down, turn off the computer, turn off, my brain. And I do turn it off sometimes. It's a little hard because I'll turn it off, but it turns back on, But I'll just sometimes sit and just have a full day of Netflix or a full day of TV. And I'm not a TV person. I'm more of a computer person because I'm always thinking, what can I do? How can I do that? I'm still learning things on the computer of how to do certain things so that it'll make life easier for me. So, and like I said, I am taking some things off of my plate and giving them to other. I'm delegating because I've got some new members, and they are coming in with some skills and things, which helps also. So I can give some things off of my plate, like forgiveness. For goodness cakes. I've given that. I don't have to order the cakes now or anything. She does all of that. The spa day coming up, I have someone taking on each part of that. Whereas normally I would do the food, the everything. But I got a committee now that's doing that. We'll just check in. So I'm learning to delegate more and just making sure that not to micromanage, but just to tell them what I want, tell them how we want it to look, and let them do their thing, And then if they need me, I'm always available for them. I tell my grandparent, you can call me any time of the day or the night. My phone is right by my bed. And so sometimes you might need, just to talk to somebody at 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. Call me, because we are in this together. And as I said today in the meeting, we're family because we share a lot of information. We share a lot of hurt, but we also share a lot of excitement and enjoyment and new babies and things like that. So it's not all gloom and doom.
Yeah.
We have a lot that we share, and that's what family does. And family comes to the rescue of each person.
Absolutely. So you have part one of your Mother's Day celebration, and then you guys are having part two. What is a Mother's Day celebration with grandparents, parenting like?
Well, today what I did is I made, and I'm learning to do this kind of stuff. I made little gift certificates for them. And I have a friend that sells paparazzi jewelry, which everybody knows paparazzi jewelry. So each person got a gift certificate to use at her pop-up shop. That's what I called it. So that was the first part of their Mother's Day event. So on the 11th, which is our next event, it's our day, what we're going to do is we have some Mother's Day activities. We're going to have a Mother's Day meal, and I can't tell you what that is yet. And we're just going to have fun. And they love getting prizes and gifts and things. They just love that. Today we just did a raffle. I had some puzzles that someone had donated to me. And if you know, puzzles are a good family way to bond together. And so they love puzzles. And so I gave away puzzles today. Things like that, things that don't cost, because we're not funded or anything by, for programming. I get funding for training and things like that, but not necessarily for programming. And so we try to find things that are free or cost free or very, very cheap. So I've made a connection with Detroit Repertory Theater and also Detroit Public Theater, where we can go in and see plays for a very minimal charge. So things like that, that's the kind of stuff that I do. I'm steady looking for connections that we can have fun and do things that it's not going to break the bank.
Yeah, yeah, that is wonderful. I feel like so many people in the city, like this city has so much to offer in terms of plays and art and free things. I'm so good for going online and typing in free with kids, free whatever. And so many folks don't even who live here, live in Detroit, don't experience all of the city because we either think we can't
Right.
afford it, or we just don't look for free ways to do things. There are certain things like the DIA, if you have a Detroit, Oakland County address that you can get in for free. Things that folks should know and may not have time to research they can do. So to somebody watching who may have business or may have things services that they could donate to grandparents, parents, and again, how can one what services and donations do you take, and two, how can they get in contact with you to donate these?
Okay, the first part I didn't hear all the way.
Yeah, what services or products would you like donated to grandparents, parents, and again?
Okay. Uh, oh, is that me? Okay. Services that I would like. Grandparents always like getting gift baskets. Those are always good. Um, Perfumes, anything to make them feel special, basically. We already talked about the other kind of services, but just like for fun things, anything fun to do, gift cards, baskets, things like that. You could always contact me at aura.w at sbcglobal.net. That I look at. The second email is grandparents with an S, parenting again, 221 at gmail.com. My phone number is 313-531-2025. And please go on our website and look at it. It is grandparentspack, PAK.org. You'll get to read some stories that we had a project that we did with urban aging. And you'll read stories of how a lot of our grandparents got their children and the story of how it's going.
Can you tell us a little bit about the story that was featured on Urban Aging?
Say it again. Your phone is something.
Yeah, let me see. Sorry.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the story that was featured on Urban Aging?
Pat Rencher from Urban Aging came to us, and we had gotten a grant to do I can't even, it's like a history of grandparents parenting again. And we had, I want to say 6 or 7 families that talked about their experience of getting the children and how they've been living since they've had the children. It was put out, I'll try to find it before we hang up in King Gay, and I can tell you a little bit more. But it was put on with Urban Aging and Patricia Rencher.
Okay. Awesome. So we know that the grandparents are um taking these children on, and not even taking these children on. They're stepping up for their family and opening their doors in this way. Do you find that grandparents often need help preparing their home by way of getting bedrooms ready, getting furniture? Are these types of things that grandparents typically need and that the community might be able to participate in donating or helping with?
What if they, when they do, as far as usually it's beds, that's what we kind of run into. And building beds for kids with Sam out of Oak Park, that's where we normally get our beds from, if someone needs beds. But when people, if there was a way that they can contact me, and when people call me and they need certain things, because I would have a listing to go um, to call somebody if someone needs, like they need clothing. Right now, I have some in my clothing closet, and I have a couple of organizations that sometimes you can send them to. But
Mhm.
if there's somebody that can just say, okay, well, I can go buy 2 pair of jeans and 2 shirts or something, that would be fantastic. That's, they have my number. So if they're, I have people that are supporters of grandparents parenting again. And as a supporter, that's what they do. They support the grandparents, they support the organization with getting these kinds of things. They come to meetings. All of them don't, but some of them come to meetings, but they're there just to let everybody know that you've got somebody to lean on.
Mhm. Yes, and from your bio, I can tell that you have been doing community work for a long time. Also, from just hearing about you from, like I said, in so many different areas in the community. You've been doing this work for a long time, and it doesn't sound like you plan on stopping anytime soon. So, what are the next kind of community social justice efforts that you plan on doing, or how, or do you plan on just continuing with grandparents parenting again, and how do you want to see it grow or change in the next 5, 10 years?
I definitely want to see it grow. That's the reason we're going to have some facilitation training so that others will know how to facilitate, because there's a need. There's a need all over. Right before COVID hit, we were moving into to Southwest Detroit. We had a translator and all, because all areas have grandparents that need this kind of help.
Mhm.
It's a lot of times they just don't know where to go or how to get it started, which I didn't either when I first started it, but it comes to you as you start to do the work more and more, and you get help that comes and rescue you. If you get stuck somewhere, there's others that you can call on. The thing is taking that first step, getting together with a group that you know that needs the help. Um, I have a group that I can always call on if I need help, if I've got a family. And so I try to keep people around me that understand what I do and
Mhm.
they understand the need. And so with that being said, I have a good group of people that are there for me, but you can never have too many supporters or too many people that will help you out, because you can't just continue with the same people, because guess what? You're going to burn them out. So you
Mhm.
have to have a rotating group of people, a rotating scale. Uh, so I guess that in saying that, it's really interesting. I was looking at Michelle show with Oprah the other night, and she was saying she had a kitchen table group. And so I have a kitchen table group too, great group of people that I can call on at any time. And I think we all have that kitchen table group.
No, explain. I've never heard that term. Explain to us. What is a kitchen table group?
Okay. And that was from Michelle. If you look on Netflix, Michelle and Oprah were on discussing her new book, The Light That I Carry, I think is the name of it. And she talked about having this group of friends that, most things are done at a kitchen table. If you think back, when you had some of your best conversations at the kitchen table. And so even when you were a kid, your mom's in the kitchen cooking, you were sitting at the kitchen table talking. So when she said that, it just kind of stuck with me because that's where I have a group of people and we sit in my kitchen majority of the time. I don't know what it is about kitchens. I don't have a kitchen table. I have a kitchen counter, but same thing. And it's just that group that that you can call on at any time and say, listen, this is what's going on. And they'll say, we got you.
Yes, okay. That's what my grandma called her good girlfriends.
That's
Okay.
right. That's right. Right. You notice the good girlfriends.
Yeah.
See, that's right. Grandma got the right idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
folks don't have those now.
Yeah.
In our days, we've got friends. I just about 2 months ago, one of my best girlfriends of over 50 years passed. And my granddaughter say, Nana, gee, I was friends for 50 years. Yeah, we are. I said, you all don't know how to have friends. We knew how to have friends and to keep friends.
Yeah.
Like grandma. I like that. I have to remember that. My good girlfriends.
Yeah. And it's levels to it because she has her good friends and she has her girlfriends, but she has her good girlfriends. So
there you go. There you go. I love it.
Yeah, and I feel like that probably even helps in your social justice work, that ability to maintain long, good standing friendships. And that's something that I feel like in organizing that I've probably learned from my grandmother without thinking about it. Like she was always the person that, if somebody passed, I had to go drop a plant off, drop some food off.
That's right.
Something. She didn't even have to like the person, if we're being honest. But there was just this community obligation. You take care of people, you step in, you do what you're supposed to do, and you do not make a fuss about it or make nobody feel uncomfortable. And I think that translates into community work and social justice work, that you do it because you're just supposed to. There's no, you don't have to have a big old reason for it or anything like that. You maintain each other. And when it's your turn to collect from the community, when you need help, they show up for you.
Right.
And when you're doing okay, then it's your turn to deposit for somebody else.
And I think a lot of times, even with social justice, I think what happens sometimes people don't understand what social justice is all about. So that's the reason I try to make sure, even with my grandparents, because some of them had never heard of Mothering Justice. So I have to let them know what Mothering Justice is about, and what kind of things that they're fighting for. And these are some of the things that you may not benefit from right now, but your grandchildren and great-grandchildren, they will benefit from, your woman body, that's number one, you got to take care of it. Mothering Justice is trying to make sure that you have that ability, that nobody takes that right away from you. The same with right to work and living wages, those kind of things. Those are the two that I know of right offhand, that I can think of. But you have to expose people to things, because if they don't know, they just don't know.
Absolutely. So I see that you put a lot of pieces together and are educating folks so that they know more about. When you talk about when you first started, reparenting, there was a lot of stuff you didn't know, and grandparents that come to your group, they just don't know certain things. I think about when I left the hospital with my first baby, I was just so shocked that I had to do this. Like I didn't know anything, but you figure it out along the way. And as you're figuring it out, as you're putting the support together, what gaps? I'm not sure if that is my internet or yours, so I'm going to move closer to my Wi-Fi. What gaps in service do you believe the community has? The connection is good. Okay. Okay, give us a second. We might have lost Miss Ora for a second, but she is coming back. She's probably going to link back on. We might be having a slight connection issue. As we wait to see if she's able to log back on, some of the needs she expressed for grandparents, parenting again, and kinship support. One, letting folks know about their meetings. They meet twice a week. We will be putting this information on Mother and Justice website, so you're able to connect any grandparent to this group who may need this kind of support, this fellowship, this kinship. And if you know of any orgs that are offering pro bono legal work, like Ms. Ora said, it wouldn't be something that is exhaustive that they're calling all the time. But if you're able to donate a few hours of your time, if you know an org that does pro bono legal work, for that will be available to the grandparents and the Grandparents Parent Center group. Again, please contact her. We will have her contact information up on our up on the screen for you. There we are. So there's her number and email if you know anybody who is offering that pro bono work. And tech training. This is anybody who knows how to do it. So if you have a teenager in your life who has the kind of patience needed to teach folks, if you yourself are able to help folks learn, and it sounds like some of the needs for the tech training are pretty basic, learning to navigate a Zoom or things like that. If you or you know somebody who is able to patiently provide tech training to folks at Grandparents Parents again, please contact Ms. Ora Williams. Her contact information is up on the screen. Hey, Ms. Ora, we got you back.
Am I back?
Yes, you are back.
Okay,
so,
thank you.
What I was asking was, what type of gaps do you see in community support? Like, where are the gaps for the work that you do and the needs that your families have?
And as the one gap that I see that they have such a hard time with is DHHS. That's where they seem to have a big problem of getting in contact and getting everything set up to start receiving, because not all children come through the system.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that you have to realize is that there are a lot of informal caregiving going on, which means that they have not been placed through the state of Michigan. These are children that you have taken in, your grandchildren, niece, nephew, whoever, without any legal papers. You may have guardianship paper, but it is not through the state of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the problems, because if it's informal, a lot of times people don't want to go through DHHS, so they just kind of just make do with what they have, and a lot of times that's kind of hard because food is expensive. And so a lot of them go to pantries because they can't get food stamps. Because for food stamps, even if they were to apply, you count the whole family's income. So let's say that you got a grandmother in there, and I'll use myself for example. I retired from the state of Michigan. So with my income and pension, as well as with my granddaughter who was living with me and my grandson, that was her family of four, but the income was too high. So we could not get any food stamps. And that's what a lot of grandparents, because they get a pension or they get Social Security, and maybe they only have one child. State of Michigan says you got enough money to buy food. That doesn't always work. Your income that you got is for you. It basically was for you to take care of yourself, not to take care of another two or three kids sometimes, even though you do it and you do it gracefully and you do it for the love. So what they are trying to do is to try to find a way to give funding, just like you give to foster care parents, to those that are informal caregiving. It's probably a ways down, but at least they're looking at it now, because it's much better for kids to be growing up in their own home or with family versus being
Mhm.
outside with people that they don't know a lot of times. So, powers that be, and that's just what I've termed them, they're beginning to see that and they're beginning to look at that, and that makes a big difference. So, we're just going to keep praying and hope that they keep looking at that and realize that we got to do something to help these informal caregivers to get some income for these children so that we don't have to put them into the system because it would be a whole lot more if they're in the system.
Absolutely. Yeah. More money and lowered quality of life, lowered cultural and emotional support, and a bigger disconnect from family.
And
So,
the thing is, you want to
absolutely.
reunite families if you can. You don't want
Hmm.
to tear them apart, and the family that you may have this child because mom or dad, maybe they just need some rehab. And so it doesn't mean you're going to just take that child away from them. You want to help them to move to the next level, to get themselves together and reunite that family so that it is a family again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so we got about 5 more minutes, and I want to make sure that again, folks are able to stay in contact with you. So, and also know about the services that you offer. So, again, for folks who may have joined the show later, can you let us know where the meetings are, just the details about the meetings and what they provide?
Okay. We meet on the second and fourth Thursday at Fellowship Chapel Church, 7707 West Outer Drive. We meet from 12 until 2. You have to make sure you get out so you can get your kiddies from school. So, and our meetings consist of a light meal and also resources, fellowship, just a typical general meeting, resources being disseminated as well as incoming resources. We have speakers, we have workshops, all of that's included. We have a virtual meeting on the second Thursday of each month from 6:30 to 7:30. I want to make a addendum to that. January, February, and March, we do not meet in person. The weather is too unpredictable, and I don't want my babies out doing that weather because we don't ever know what it's going to be. So we meet virtually. So, we meet in person the rest of the time, but those 3 months we meet virtually.
Yeah.
You get lots of emails from me letting you know all kinds of good things that are coming on board. So if you're out there and you are taking care of a grandchild or any child that's not your own, please know that you're not alone. Come and join us. Call me. I'll talk to you and let you know we can do this.
Absolutely. Miss Earl, we thank you so much for your work, your continued efforts, all of the gaps that you're bridging in the community. We're so happy to be able to highlight this org and to keep being in relationship with grandparents, parenting again. Part of the work we do at Mother and Justice is for informal caregivers. And we know that grandma is the original OG informal caregiver. It has been the gap for affordable childcare, for food, for clothing, for housing. Oftentimes, grandma has been what DHHS should have been for a lot of our families. So we appreciate your work, everything that you've done on an individual level, everything that you've done to make the community a better place. Again, Ms. Orr's contact information, we're going to put Ms. Orr's contact information up on the screen. If you know somebody, and again, it's grandparents, parenting again, and kinship support. So keep in mind, sometimes we're misled by names. She talking about aunties,
That's right.
uncles, cousins, neighbors. If you taking on a baby that is not your baby, but is your
That's
baby, reach out. Reach out for if you want conversation, if you want resources, if you are experiencing loneliness, isolation, shame, any of these things. There are people right here in this community
yes.
that are here to support you and understand what you're going through, and there are meetings for it and times to connect. So, Ms. Orr, we thank you so much for coming through for the work that you do. We'll be in
Thank you
contact.
so
And so,
much.
Time. We'll see you all next month on our next community conversation. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.